Conversations with Iris. Here's your host, my loving wife, Iris.
Hey, hey there, beautiful souls, and welcome back to Conversations with Iris, the space where stories become medicine and we honor both groundbreaking and becoming stories that just bring that pizzazz to your soul. And if this is your first time tuning into this wonderful podcast that could, welcome home. And if you've been writing with us for some time here or for a while, you already know these conversations are not just heard, they're actually felt. You feel them in your soul, what I like to call that goodness, that greatness. And here I'd love to talk about moments that just change us and not the highlight reels, but the real reels, if that makes sense. And those stories that just demand truth, courage, and a whole lot of heart. So, again, I want to take you all to this great journey today with this beautiful guest that we have coming on today, who's an award winning entrepreneur, a business strategist, a fierce mama bear who just, love to become or live by the moment. Let me tell you guys a little bit about this wonderful guest that we have. And in December of 2023, her 11-year-old son, Nicholas, was sent home from the ER, showing clear signs of sepsis. And 2 days later, he collapsed out of nowhere due to septic shock there. And what's followed was a month-long battle in the pediatric ICU with multiple surgeries to save his life. And thankfully, due to the grace of God, Nicholas survived, but of course, with permanent injuries that changed the course of his family history. So instead of letting her grief consume her, she turned that pain into purpose. And now she's a powerful advocate with all these great patient safeties and hospitals accountability and parent empowerment, which is what I love. I'm all about that. So today we're going to talk about that little thing we like to call resilience and the power of a mother's intuition. Okay. Let me say that again. Mother's intuition. I love the way that sounds because I'm a mama bear myself. So I feel this all wholeheartedly in my spirit already. And of course, it's going to show us and talk about how advocacy can rise from just a heartbreak and just come up. So, my guest, please let me welcome this wonderful, wonderful person now. Bienvenidos, Reasa Selph. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I'm super excited for you to be here, talking to us and sharing your story, being vulnerable. And you've been through so much. You said that you went from being a mom into survival mode to a mom on a mission, which is what I love. And I wanted to ask you, can you just take us back to that moment when you realized this wasn't just about your son anymore? This was about every family you could or that could face the situation that you faced.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I on December 23rd, obviously, we took Nicholas to South Lake Methodist Hospital here in DFW and trusted the hospital. Things were great. He had been sick with the flu. He got better, so we went back when he got worse, and so they tell us everything is fine. Go home. Don't worry about it. And this is 2 days before Christmas, and we trusted the hospital, so that's what we did. And we get home. He's still not eating well, not doing very well, and he slept most of Christmas Eve. And then Christmas morning, um, my oldest son, who was 22 at the time, says, I have to wake him up. And I'm like, okay, fine, go ahead and wake him up. And so he woke him up, and our youngest son could barely come down the stairs by himself. And he kept telling us, I'm still feeling very confused and dizzy. And
We
so we took his blood pressure, and I thought the machine was broken. So as I was changing the batteries, I looked at him and he was yellow. So we called our pediatrician at home, and she said, take him straight to Cook's now. So we did that. And as soon as we get there, we pull up and we get a wheelchair because he could barely walk. And he says, Mom, please don't leave me. And I said, absolutely not. And I said, I leave when you leave.
Mm.
Still, as a parent, could not fathom that he was nearly this, that sick. And so they take his blood pressure and they do one or two other like minor things in triage, and they take him and they said, we're activating sepsis protocol. And I'm like, what? Like, I have a hard time, even like my mind just could not understand. And so we have probably, I felt like 100, but it was probably 10 providers in the room. And they tell us they're going to put us in ICU. And still not really understanding, just because as a mom's mind, I just never thought he could be that sick. And so they put us in the ICU, and it was probably 12 hours into the visit or so, or 12 hours into the stay. And he says, I'm going to throw up. And I hand him a vomit bag because I can't understand why he's going to throw up. He hasn't eaten in days. But he ended up throwing up a pint of blood.
Oh my God.
And I think at that moment, there were several things that happened very fast. One, he looked at me and said, do you see Jesus's lamb in the corner? I'm going to go play with them. And I was like, not today. We're not playing with Jesus' lamb today. And then the ICU doctor looked over and said, we're going to intubate him now. We're going to put him on a ventilator. And I think at that moment when I really realized how sick he was. And as they start to intubate him, he tells me it's okay if I die. And I said, it's not okay with me. And so as we sat there that night, and they wanted to bring in a priest, and it was, there's a lot of things happening very fast. My mind struggled to figure out how we went from 48 hours before he was fine with the virus to he's on a ventilator and they're asking us if they could bring in a priest. So as I waited, I don't know, 4 or 5 days. I can't remember exactly, but I finally asked somebody, one of the doctors, that said, I need you to help me understand what happened. How did we go from we're okay to where we're at and what we've gone through so far? And they said, I have to, I'm going to show you something. And he shows me the records from our previous visit. And it turns out he was never okay. Turns out that I mean, we didn't get the records at the time, but at the visit on the 23rd. So he starts showing me the labs where his kidneys were actually already failing, and his liver, and he was already having heart issues, and that his vitals were already low, and his EKG was off. So they started showing me all these things, and I couldn't understand how a place that I went to, and we paid, right, for healthcare, and they sent us home like that, essentially to die, because had we not
Yeah.
picked him up, he probably would have just passed away in his sleep.
Oh my God.
And I was angry. I was really, really angry. Um, and so I started documenting, and I started, one, documenting our journey, because we were obviously there for almost 40 days. Um, but I started to trying to figure out what happened. And I quickly learned that they just didn't tell us. And I had so much mom guilt from feeling like I should have done something more, or I should have known, that started digging through the records. We started filing complaints, and started making headway in figuring out exactly what happened.
Mm.
So that's how I kind of started.
Wow. Wow. What a journey. And can you please share with us what was Nicholas's age at this time?
So Nicholas was 11,
Okay.
and they had our infectious disease doctor said, they just have such a limited data, because most children that go into septic shock do not survive because his organs had already started shutting down. We have long term heart issues and things like that now, but Nicholas was blessed to be a very tall, healthy boy. So um, today, Nicholas just turned 13 about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he is right about 6'3" and 230 pounds.
Oh my.
And so
That's
um,
phenomenal.
he is a big boy. And so when he was 11, I think he was right at 5'10", 5'11". And so his body was stronger than most other kids.
Mm.
I just started thinking about the fact that if it would have been any of his friends who are a fraction of the size, that they wouldn't have made it, that I had an obligation to speak up and to do something for change.
So that's where that purpose came from. Like we mentioned, you turned that pain into purpose. You started documenting your journey. So you kept a journal physically in the hospital?
I did. So we documented everything. I wrote everything down. I took pictures. I took videos because I knew at some point I was going to need them. I didn't know for what, but I knew I would need them.
Wow. Wow. So Nicholas being 11 years old at that time, and I'm sorry that you had to go through this, but this touches me completely as a parent. And don't you like at that moment, I bet you felt like, God, just take this pain away from my child and just transfer it to me, right? I guess that's the first thing that I would just pray about. Like, God, please just let it be me instead of my child. Were those thoughts running through your mind at that time?
Absolutely. And it was so incredible. We go to a smaller private Christian school, and so we had this love around us, and teachers left their homes on Christmas Day to be with us, and so much prayer, all of those things. So that helped. But what gave me the most strength was Nicholas. His faith has taught me so much through this entire process. And as I would say, I would tell Nicholas, like, I would take this from you, or I would rather this be me. He would just reassure me. It was the craziest thing. He would just reassure me and tell me, it's okay. It's okay. And it's
Hmm.
okay if I die. And he felt so comfortable. It was eerie in a way, but he felt so comfortable. And the mama in me I just wanted to take it away, but there was something that was surrounding us. And I mean, it was his faith that probably encapsulated us all.
Yeah, yeah. I have a feeling that that exactly was it. I mean, with faith, anything is possible for sure. And oh my goodness, that's amazing. Now, going back to when you guys were sent home the first time, Nicholas was sent home. You had mentioned before, 2 days before Christmas, he was sleeping and all of that. And when you were having these conversations with the physician, and he basically mentioned, that his organs started to fail or were failing at that initial visit, did they tell you what caused it? There's so many things that causes what we call septic shock and all that. Was there an untreated like illness or something that must have caused it? Did you guys ever found out what really caused all this to happen?
So, just pure speculation. We Nicholas had went to the same hospital as South Lake Methodist as we did on the 23rd on December, I think 13th. I think it was the 14th of December for the flu for dehydration, and he received an IV in his right hand,
Mm.
and that is, and I may be wrong, maybe the left, but his same hand, he received the IV, and that is the same hand that it first colonized. It was strep A that first colonized in that hand. So it's only speculate. I mean, we can't prove it, and that's okay. But
Yeah.
because we understand things happen, but that's where we think he got it from because he had no other wounds, no other scrapes or anything, and it colonized in that spot first.
Wow, wow. And as a mom, even though you're not sure, you know that's what happened. It's like as a mom, it's like I'm pretty sure that's exactly what happened
Oh,
because you could
yeah.
get sepsis with anything. I mean, I don't mean to be TMI here, but I mean, I had a friend that had a seps went into septic shock due to an ingrown hair
Oh,
on her
yeah.
private area. So sepsis could it could happen to anybody. I mean, an untreated wound, I mean, a mosquito bite. I mean, little things like that. But yeah, and an ingrown hair. So I completely believe this exactly where you're wow, that's crazy. If you believe it, I believe it. And that's good to know. So let me ask you, you had mentioned that in turning the turning point, fighting the fear to fight, and you were like angry, you were documenting everything, you were in the hospital complaining, and you felt like, okay, I have to do something about this. So tell me, what did advocacy look like for you from the hospital when you were just a mom just trying to be heard? Because I know for a fact that if they would have told me that, oh my God, you sent my son to basically die pretty much, what was going on there?
So, again, on Christmas, we went to a different hospital. So, as we spent that 40 days there and I started documenting and started understanding all the things, I I really didn't know what it was going to look like. But what it ended up being was when I started to understand all of the railroading and the placating and gaslighting, I got madder. And in Texas, it's extremely difficult to sue an ER. And I, I guess as a naive healthcare consumer, I just thought that if something goes wrong or somebody doesn't do their job, there's regulatory agencies, there are consequences to those actions. And I started to realize that that may not be true. Or it may not be true in the sense that most of us believe that we're protected. So as I started to learn that and I started getting roadblocks and started, getting pushback from my community and things like that because they're big donors in our area, I decided to really figure out what's going on. And so I started to dig deeper. We, filed complaints. We were able to they received 2 federal violations for his lack of care. And then that's when it kind of started. And especially when we had a difficult time getting like the documents, like we shouldn't get that.
Hmm. Wow, look at that.
And so I got more angry. And the more I fought and the more we worked through the process, we learned that most people give out way before we did. And that was almost unfair that other people give up because it's so defeating. There's so many roadblocks.
Wow.
And we just didn't want that for anybody.
Mm-mm. No, no, not expect, especially after what you experience. And I know that you spoken about, we were just talking about it, hospitals gaslighting or healthcare providers gaslighting you. It happens a lot. I myself have had experiences where, no, that wasn't what was going on with me. It was the other thing. You know what I mean? Like a lot
Yeah.
of us out there. And you have spoken about a system that's failing, that failed you, but it failed other families, not just medically, but the emotional trauma behind this is really, really not shown enough. So, like, what kind of silence do you think parents get trapped in after the medical trauma of this?
Well, so one, the gaslighting was it was crazy because we initially filed a lawsuit because I figured that's how we were going to have to get the documents, and their response was nothing happened. Like basically, we treated him properly. All while they were holding the federal violation, essentially metaphorically, behind their back, and I didn't have access to that record just yet. And so that was infuriating. And then as we started walking through the process and just could not get any, um, we couldn't get anything. And so
Yeah.
we were finally making progress with the case, and the Dallas Morning News featured us on the front page of a Saturday paper. And that was a moment that I felt so validated. But what it also did was we had hundreds of people reach out to us with similar instances. So this was happening to a lot of people in a lot of places by the same healthcare facility. Some of them were not, but a lot of them were the same healthcare facility. Some of them even had the same doctor.
Oh, wow.
And the emotional toll that that took on me, it it pushed me to even want to push forward even more.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And as you should. And let me ask you something. If you could sit here and tell a hospital administrator one truth, just that they keep missing, what would that truth be? What was the one thing that they're missing?
It's not okay to put profits over patients.
Yeah, I have to convey that. I love that. I love that. That's very true.
And what we've learned is this particular hospital, according to the data we've received, has they're the most litigious hospital in Texas. And you wouldn't think that by the commercials and by the marketing, and you would never even think that. And it's been interesting because there's been other cases that have been recently filed after they read our Dallas Morning News article, but one of them in particular was very similar to Nicholas's case. But this young man was 22 and he didn't make it.
Oh, wow.
And
Were,
so
were you in touch with their family at all? Do you know?
they've recently only filed their case. I've only recently read about their story, so I did not know anything about them before.
Oh, my God. And I'm sorry, you were going to say something and I had cut you off there. I do
That's okay.
apologize.
One of the things in Texas is there's no mandatory sepsis protocol. And that is one of the things that we want to change in the 2027 legislative session is that there needs to be a mandatory standard of care for sepsis.
Wow. So as you move on in trying to get this established, where are you guys currently at right now with, trying to pass this sepsis protocol?
So we are working with a health and safety committee member for the Senate, working on kind of going through the bill, building the support. They don't vote again until 2027. So gathering data. In our case, because in my opinion, what she did was criminal, just ignoring all the facts and data that she had, it may have not have changed the outcome, but at least if that protocol is in place and she violates it, there's a little more accountability than what we have seen.
Hmm. And that's very true because this is your story, but you had mentioned another individual reached out to you that, this young man, this young adult pretty much didn't make it. And how about all the other more that are out there that didn't make it? Right?
Right, and there's no mandatory sepsis reporting. Like none of this
Wow.
is required, so we don't know what the true numbers are, and so it's it is it's something that we need to know as a we're healthcare consumers. We're paying for this, and this is how we're being done.
Mm, mm. And I like how you're doing this. You're pushing for this protocol to pass in the state of Texas. Actually, it should be passed on the whole US, to be honest with you, because I mean, Nicholas is, we're blessed to have him here, and, but not a lot of individuals have been very lucky. And I like it how you're teaching parents to recognize sepsis. You're speaking up about it, you're pushing through the red tape. I want to also dive a little bit further here into resilience and your leadership. And you are also a business leader. I definitely want to point that out. You were named the best woman entrepreneur of North Texas and Business of the Year. And how are you walking through this experience, and how you show up into your business after what you experience now?
Yeah, so it's not been easy. It has been a little bit of a challenge at times. We definitely have lost business. We've had people that did not want to do business with us because we're in a small community and they are massive donors to the community. And so that has proven to be a little bit of a challenge, but I've just come to terms with those aren't my people. And I'm too old to be placating. And I'm just going to be me. I need to fight this fight regardless
Yeah.
of who it upsets or who's not happy about it. Um, because if it was their child, or if I didn't say something and it happened to someone else, I can't have it on my conscience. So it has affected business. I went through probably 8, 10, 12 months. I'm still going to therapy over what happens, you know, sitting in a hospital room for almost 40 days, almost watching your son die. That's been a lot for me.
Oh, Risa, wow. And has the therapy helped you, would you say, significantly at this point? I know that you've been going to therapy for some time, but have you seen improvement on that?
I have just, working through it, but honestly, bringing closure to this case and bringing closure, to our lawsuit and the new law, that will be what I think kind of heals me back up.
Hmm. I love that. I love that. Let me ask you something. I know that you had mentioned that you're trying to make sure that there's more awareness and more cost to this sepsis protocol, that we want to make sure that it gets through for the state of Texas. But aside from that, what other missions or policy works or awareness campaigns are in store for you or with the group that you're working to making this come to fruition, which we hope it does?
We want to work on just ethical accountability overall, whether that's in business or healthcare. We also are really trying to educate parents. I know we want to go to that local ER. We want to do um, those things. But take your kid to a pediatrician, take your kid to the pediatric hospital. One thing that really bothers me, and I haven't quite figured out how to handle it just yet, is um, they have the federal violations that they received for failure to treat my son, and they were able to make a $500,000 deal with the local school to put their name on the football field. In exchange, they can fast track children through their ER system,
Oh my
which
God.
to me just feels not okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
Wow.
but so we just want to educate people that even though we don't think they're that sick, we still need to go to a pediatric hospital or a pediatrician that, yeah, just take them, drive the extra 10 minutes or whatever.
Mm, This is extremely beautiful. And I love that you are pushing this through. I love how you said, like, your thoughts are not going to be settled. You have a mission to do, and you're going to do whatever it can to make sure that it gets done. And I love that about you. And thank you so much for sharing that. How is Nicholas today? You mentioned that he is 13 years old. He is very tall,
Yes.
grown boy. How is he with his health right now? I know that he suffered some challenges because of what happened. Can you tell us a little bit about Nicholas today?
Um, we started, got into the Mayo Clinic. We've been doing our follow ups with the Mayo Clinic just because they have a little more, uh, case history and knowledge with sepsis or post sepsis pediatrics. Nicholas has a liver and kidney issue. We recently learned that he has a heart issue and that one of his vertebrae or around something with his back because he had a bone infection from the sepsis ate away part of his a piece of his back that will cause an issue later in life. Um, and then he mentally has healed a lot, but we're still going to have problems on down the road. I mean, he definitely hates going to the doctor now. Um, but we're going to be okay. These are going to be a lot of things that we probably see when he's 35 or 40.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's unfortunate that he has these issues because of the sepsis shock that happened to him. And thank you for your transparency in sharing that with us, because again, this is something that we want to make sure that we're on here and talking about it and raising awareness, because it's sad to say it could happen to the next parent, as you mentioned, so little things to watch out for. And I love that you all are going to the Mayo Clinic and making sure that Nicholas gets the care that he needs. So that's very good. And thank you for sharing that. Um, and one of the things that I wanted to ask you is uh, with Nicholas, his health and how he's doing now, years from now, what would you want him to know about you? What the type of mom that you became out of all of this?
Um,
I know that's a deep question.
I want I want him to. I think, and he'll know. Like I'm fighting for him and standing up for what's right, even when it's hard. And I think those are the things that he will know about me and that he is learning from me. And that I think he's been able to do from watching. And at one point, we asked him, do, would you like us to drop the lawsuit? And he said no because he felt the he felt like he needed to protect other kids.
Mm.
And so that was, so I already know he's learning it and that he's seeing that.
That's beautiful. And I wanted to ask because I know there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. And I love how you said, I'm fighting for him, but in reality, Risa, you're fighting for a whole bunch of people that also need it, which is the beautiful part of it. And I admire you for that. Really
I
do.
appreciate that. Yeah, it's sometimes when I get a lot of pushback, I tell him, you might not be happy with it, but I'm really fighting for you or your grandkids or your neighbor's kid. Like
Oh,
this
yeah.
shouldn't happen.
No, it should not. And for anybody that wants to learn more about your sepsis awareness, your journey, the patient safety part of it, Nicholas's beautiful story, where can they connect with you, Risa?
So we have a site. It's Reasa's Pieces, and we're actually updating it. But you should be able to get all of those things there. It has Nicholas's story and advocacy pieces. We're working on giving away the things that we've learned on how to file complaints, how to walk through the process, what to document, because that's the right thing to do. And so it's ReasaSelppices.com.
Thank you so much. And where can our listeners continue to follow the sepsis protocol policy and procedure that you guys are trying to pass through the state of Texas, where can they follow that separate piece?
So they can find it on the site. We will be updating it there, but we also have a Facebook page, and it is Fight for Nicholas, and we update it regularly with kind of all the things that are going on with the case and changes that we want to happen.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing. You guys heard that? Definitely want to definitely tune in and follow Reese's journey and support her, and of course, live through Nicholas's journey. And of course, this is definitely going to help others. Risa, before we go here in closure, do you have a special quote that you would love to leave our listeners with, or a mantra that you would like to share?
Just don't stop fighting.
I love that. Simple, but they're very straightforward. Just don't stop fighting. And we'll leave it just like that. I love that. Just don't stop fighting. You guys heard that. I love that. Risa, I want to thank you so much for your courage, your voice, and for showing us and what love looks like in action. This is beautiful. Thank you so much for this. I really appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And to everyone listening, remember this, that advocacy is not about anger, it's about accountability. Risa talked about this. Healing isn't about going back, it's about moving forward with wisdom and that little thing that we mentioned called faith. So, wherever you're breathing, speak up and never underestimate that power of your voice. So, this is Conversations with Iris con mucho amor. Thank you all. Thank you, Risa.